Connection Radio, featuring new releases for conscious living. I'm your host, Vicki Thompson. Today I'd like to welcome to New Connection Radio Tim Ray, who is the author of 101 Relationship Myths, How to Stop Them from Sabotaging Your Happiness. Tim, welcome to New Connection Radio.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, this is an interesting book entitled 101 Relationship Myths. Can you tell us what the book is about and why you wrote it?
Well, I've spent a lot of time exploring why so many of us have problems in our relationships and also what we can do about it, both motivated by my own personal relationship challenges, but also through the work that I've done over the years with clients that I have in my practice and people who come to my workshops and other events. What I've found out is that the basic cause of our relationship problems is that we believe in a lot of stories about love and relationships and men and women that have very little or nothing to do with reality, which is why I call these stories relationship myths. And what I do in the book is I identify some of our most common relationship myths, and then I subject them to what I call relationship myth busting or reality testing, where I look at, well, does this story have anything to do with reality? Is it truth or is it just a myth? And if it is a myth, well, how does this affect us? And all the time, when you realize that this is a myth that has nothing to do with reality, you'll see that it frustrates us and it makes us confused and unhappy. And I also then look at, well, okay, so if it is a myth, what would it be like then to live more in harmony with the way things really are?
Well, one of the things you talk about in your book, and it's a really delightful book, has a great humor to it as you go through and do your relationship myth busting. But one of the things you talk about is how the devil is partly to blame for our relationship miseries. And this tricky devil has lied to us, saying that love is outside of us, it's only in one special person, and we have to be with this one person forever. So let's bust this one. What's wrong with this picture?
Well, in the book, I use the devil throughout the book as a sort of humorous symbol of these relationship myths. And I actually start the book with the scene where I have the devil sitting in his sort of flaming hot company headquarters in hell, racking his brains, trying to find out how can he accomplish his mission. And what is the devil's mission? Well, his mission statement is to make as many people as possible, as unhappy as possible for as long as possible. So he's sitting there thinking, well, how can I accomplish that? And then one day he comes up with this brilliant idea, relationship myths. A number of lies about love and relationships that will really, really, crank up his mission to make as many people as possible unhappy. And one of the main myths that the devil comes up with that makes so many of us unhappy is this belief that our happiness is dependent on our partner, on someone outside of ourselves. And I think if you look around you at our society today, it's pretty clear that the devil has really accomplished his mission with this one, because everywhere we look, we're bombarded with messages telling us that our happiness is dependent on outer circumstances, on a partner or on a special person. And this makes us so miserable and so unhappy. But if we subject this story to some reality testing, some myth busting, well, then we find out that this is actually not true, that our happiness is not dependent on outer circumstances, but on inner circumstances, on our state of mind, and on our stories, our interpretations of what's going on in our lives. And this is great news, but, sad news for the devil, of course.
That's right. Well, let's explore some of the other myths that you have. And another one is that in a relationship, we've probably all felt that if we worked really hard at it, we could change our partner's annoying habits. and then our relationship would be absolutely perfect. So why is this a myth? Because I'm sure we have all done this.
Yes, been there, done that, absolutely. Well, this is a myth because the reality is that we cannot change our partners. The only person that can actually change our partner is our partner. We can't get inside our partner's head and control what he or she thinks or how she acts or the way our partner feels about things. This isn't to say that we can't talk things over and work on clear communication and come with, suggestions as to how to improve things. But after we've done that, well, then the rest is up to our partner. But when we don't see this, when we believe the myth that, if only I work hard enough for my partner, sooner or later he or she will change, it makes us very frustrated and unhappy because we're constantly trying to do the impossible, trying to change something that we have no control over. So it's really a myth that makes a lot of us very unhappy. But when we see the reality that we can't change our partner, well, then we get real. It's a much more sane and healthy way of relating to each other, to have a more realistic assessment of who our partner is, and to deal with that instead of all the time basing your behavior on some expectation that may or may not become true in the future. So, and this is one of the things I often do with clients who come to me. I start out by, okay, let's start by doing a reality test about your partner, and it's a very big eye-opener for a lot of people because a lot of us have become so entranced with our idea of how our partner should be that we're no longer actually seeing and living with the real man or woman. Instead, we're sort of living with this fantasy man, this fantasy woman.
Yeah, it's very true. Okay, here's another myth that I think for some you're going to really have to debunk this hard. So strong sexual attraction means that you're a good match. So I noticed so many people, that sounds great. So what's wrong with this one?
Well, I can, first of all, let me say that personally I think this is one of the myths that I personally have suffered from the most, this belief that strong sexual attraction or falling in love also means that we're a good match as a couple. And so this was actually also one of the first stories that I sort of myth busted when I started this work. And I was just sort of floored by what I found out when I looked closer at it, because I could see so clearly that even though in several of my past relationships I had strong sexual attraction or even been in love and so on, the reality was also that when it came to my core values, her core values, our outlook on life, our life goals, that we were not a good match. But because I was so blinded by this belief, because I thought that these strong feelings were sort of a workable guide or compass for my relationship troubles, I ended up in several very disharmonious, mismatched relationships. And often it would take me quite a while to sort of, after the reality began to dawn on me, to extricate myself from this relationship. So it's really a story that has caused me a lot of pain. And also, I, as you say, I'm not the only one. We really believe this so strongly. But also what happens once, again, I can say from my own personal experience, that once I saw this, well, okay, so if the reality is that strong sexual attraction is not a wise guide to have, so good to have as your only guide, well, then what then? And for me, one of the things that I sort of, the first years after I found this out, I made this rule for myself of, no physical contact, no kissing, no sex for the first 5 dates. Just, I know in this sort of modern day and age, this may sound maybe a bit old-fashioned, but it has worked wonders for me, I tell you. Because if you don't have sort of the lure or the prize of sex in the back of your mind, if you know that's not going to happen, well, then what are you going to do? Well, then you're forced to actually look at this person and look at, well, who is she really? What is she saying? What are her values? What are my values? And are they a good match or not?
That sounds like a good plan. So is there one piece of wisdom that you can share with couples around the world for having a good, healthy relationship?
Well, the one thing that has helped me more than anything with my own personal relationship problems, and this is also what my new book is about, is learning how to identify and question the thoughts or relationship myths that are causing our relationship unhappiness. To notice that every time you're feeling upset in your relationship, try to see if you can identify, write down, well, what is the thought that is behind this upset, and then do some reality testing. Look at, well, does this thought have anything to do with reality? And if not, well, what would it be like to live more in harmony with reality? It has changed my life completely. So that's the best advice I can give.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you, Tim. It's been so wonderful to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Vicki. It's been good to be here.
Join us next time on New Connection Radio, your source for conscious living.